In this section, we're going to take a look at the Slate Material Editor. In 3ds Max 2011, Autodesk shipped a new material editor called Slate. This material editor is used for node-based material modifications and wiring different materials together so that you can kind of see a schematic result. You'll definitely notice that this exists because if you pop into 3ds Max 2011, the default is to use the Slate Material Editor. So if I just press my handy M hotkey, you'll see this come up. Now this is a possibly daunting interface, but we'll go through all these different tools and panels and show you everything that's in here. Now you can definitely tell one thing, and that's this material editor does take up a lot of room. As it's a visual node-based material editor, there needs to be a certain amount of screen real estate dedicated to it. If you want to get back to the old material editor, there's a couple of different ways to do that. If I just launch this, then you can see that the first menu here is the modes menu, and you can just choose the compact material editor, and this will be here to work with as you may be used to working with it. So if you open that up and you get scared and afraid by that material editor, then you can just go to modes and toggle back. The other place to get this is, of course, from the material editor button. So if I just click on this and hold, you'll see there's a flyout here. And if I choose compact material editor, then that'll be chosen. And if this is what I want to work with, once that button is chosen, it'll toggle whichever the last material editor I was using. So a lot of times if I'm setting up a quick scene, I like to use the compact, just drag and drop materials and put in quick maps. But once they start getting a little bit more complex, I think it's a good idea to start using the Slate Material Editor. And the more that you use it, the more making basic materials will be easy for you to do there. So the last place we can toggle between these is under the rendering menu, material editors, and we can choose either one. So I'm going to go back into Slate because that's what we'll be looking at. You can see that we're presented with a bunch of different panels. We have this panel here, which is going to be our node view. And immediately, let me just drag in a material. So I'm just going to choose a standard material and drag it over there. And you can see this is what the nodes look like and how they exist in that view. Over to the left, we have our material map browser. And you can click on materials as well as maps and other things like controllers. And you also have your scene materials, which we don't have any in the scene right now, but momentarily we will, and sample slots. So you can see this gives you a little rollout of the sample slots that you have in Max, and you can make this larger or smaller. So if you're used to using these little sample slots, then you can just kind of adjust this so that that will work for you, and you can double click or drag and drop on these to bring them in the view as well. This material map browser also has a nice search capability up here, so we can go and type in something like blend, and you'll see that there's the blend material there. Or if we typed in multi, you'd see multi-sub-object and multi-output channel texture map. And we could just grab whichever one we wanted from there. So this is a nice fast way to kind of look for different maps. If we wanted to find our noise map, we could just type this in if you're a little more accustomed to working that way instead of surfing through all of the different rollouts here. So the next thing we're going to do is actually just assign this material to an object. And to do that, we can just select the node, and you can do your kind of standard assign material to selected. So if I just move this over to the side here, you see I have my selected teapot, and you can see we have assign material to selection here. And that will add that material to that object. Also, if we wanted to get a material from a selected object, we could grab our picker and go in and pick that. And you can see that that material would show up here in our view as well. So let me just undo that a couple times. And another way to assign a material in the Slate Material Editor is to drag the output. So you can drag this output to a lot of different places. One will be to this object in the scene, and then that will assign that material there. If I wanted to assign a map or a material to somewhere else in Max, I could also just drag that out to anywhere in Max. So let's take a look at this with a map. We'll just go in here and go into maps and choose something that we might put into our environment. So pretty standardly, we might grab a gradient, and that might be something that you pipe into the environment slot. So let's just open up the environment and effects, and drag that into here. So you can see that you can drag into any map slot, and we'll just say that we want that to be a standard gradient. And we're going to instance that map. So now when we render that, we get that material assigned to our teapot and the gradient in the background, which has been set to screen. Now, if we want to go ahead and edit any of the parameters from either one of these, either the map or this material, all you have to do is just double click on the node, and what will happen is all of its parameters will load up into the parameter editor. You can see that these rollouts are very familiar and they're very similar to what you might be used to editing in the original or compact material editor. So if I want to change this color to purple and just adjust the specular level or something like that, then I can do that. And I could work in a similar way to what I might have done before. If I didn't want to wire in things here, I could go into the maps rollout and I could adjust some of those things there. And the same thing with our gradient map. So if I wanted that to be a cylindrical environment and just change this to a little bit more of a blue, then I could do that there, and you see that'll update here in our render. So I'll just close out of that. And the other pane that you see here is our navigator pane. So you can see that we can adjust this. If we have a bunch of different nodes, then just like you might use this in Photoshop or something like that, you can easily navigate to any one of those nodes, which is really pretty helpful. So a little bit later, when we have many more of these to deal with, then you'll see how that becomes useful. So we could just use the same navigation keys that you might in the viewport here for zooming in and panning. And you also have these tools down here. So if you want, you can just grab in the zoom tool, a little marquee select, zoom extends selected, zoom extends the entire view, and we'll just grab that guy there. Get our select and just select that. So we can go with zoom the whole view or zoom selected, and then of course the pan tool. So you can adjust those right here in your navigation toolbar. And there's also this piece which will navigate around in the view by name, and we'll take a look at that when we have some more nodes in the view, and that'll become more useful. So that's just kind of navigating the view and what is in all these panes and how we can use them. Next, we'll look at customizing these views and maybe adjusting it so that we have a little bit more screen real estate and bringing some of these panels back and forth.